Complete Guide to Astrology, Understanding Yourself, Your Signs, and Your Birth Chart by Louise Edington. Let's uncover the gems together. Astrology can feel confusing because most of us meet it in pieces. A social post might teach you a fun trait about your sign, a horoscope might hint at the energy of your week, and a friend's sun sign comment might highlight a part of your personality. But none of these pieces reveal the bigger picture. Once you begin to understand how your chart actually works, astrology becomes surprisingly practical. It helps you recognize why some environments drain you while others feel energizing, why certain connections click instantly, and why your emotional and mental cycles have their own rhythm. Ready to explore? Let's begin with a story that shows how astrology comes alive in real moments. Lights flickered inside the observatory dome as Mara adjusted the focusing knob on the old telescope. She had driven 3 hours into the desert with her friend Rowan, chasing a feeling she couldn't quite name. Rowan had been insistent earlier that day. "Come with me to the observatory," he'd said. "Bring your birth chart. You don't have to believe in this. Just see if it gives you language for something you already feel." Mara had rolled her eyes, but something in his tone made her say yes. Now, under a sky pulsing with starlight, she was willing to try anything. Rowan unfolded the chart on the small metal table between them. Circles within circles, strange glyphs, lines like threads. At first, it looked incomprehensible, but Rowan's finger traced the symbols gently. "Your sun is in Sagittarius," he said. "That means you're naturally curious and you need room to explore and grow. Your moon is in Cancer, which explains your strong emotions and your instinct to protect yourself when you feel overwhelmed. And your rising sign is Scorpio, so people often see you as intense or private, even if you don't say much." Mara stared at the chart. The mix startled her. It was a clear portrait of contradictions she'd wrestled with her whole life. Contradictions Rowan couldn't possibly know about. He'd never seen her crying alone after accepting that promotion. He wasn't aware of the arguments she'd had with her partner about needing space, while also desperately wanting to be chosen. "Look at these lines," Rowan continued, pointing to the aspect angles. "Your Mars squares Saturn. That is your go-get-it energy clashing with caution and fear. Your moon trines Neptune, so your emotions flow naturally into intuition and imagination. And this Venus in Aquarius explains why you crave both freedom and deep loyalty at the same time." Mara exhaled, the weight of the night settling over her. "This is a lot," she murmured. "In a good way. I think I need a little time to take it all in. Can we continue tomorrow?" "Sure thing," replied Rowan. If you've ever felt like Mara, caught between who you think you should be and who you actually are, your birth chart might hold the answers you've been searching for. Let's break it down bit by bit. Louise Edington says, "I see the astrological chart as a blueprint of potential and possibility." It's a fitting metaphor. A blueprint doesn't tell you who you must become. It simply reveals the raw materials you have to work with and the ways those pieces naturally fit together. Everyone has a unique astrology chart, built from 4 essential components called planets, signs, houses, and aspects. Together, they show how the different parts of you operate as one complete system. Planets represent the what. They point to your basic inner drives, like how you act, how you communicate, how you love, and what stirs your emotions. Then we have signs that show the how. They describe the style or tone of those planetary energies. Some people express themselves boldly. Others express themselves quietly. For example, imagine 2 people with the same action planet. If one person has Mars in Aries and the other has Mars in Virgo, they'll not act the same way. Aries acts quickly and with confidence. Virgo acts carefully and with attention to detail. Houses reveal the where. They show the areas of life where your energies show up most strongly. These areas include identity, home, relationships, creativity, work, and community. Finally, aspects explain the why. They're the angles between planets that show how your inner parts interact. Some energies cooperate easily, while others collide or push each other to grow. All 4 components work together within your birth chart. When you look at a chart, you see symbols, slices, numbers, and lines that cross the circle. Each planet sits in a sign and in a house, and aspects connect them like threads. Nothing is random. Everything is a vital part of the same map, and we'll explore each component in more detail soon. For now, just keep in mind that your birth chart is the state of the sky captured when you were born, and it represents the unique blend of energies you came into the world with. Every astrology chart is built on 2 simple systems that quietly shape how you move through life. The first system is the 4 elements, which are fire, earth, air, and water. The second system is called the modalities, and it includes the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs. These 2 systems aren't separate sections on your chart. Each sign automatically belongs to one element and one modality, which means every chart contains all of them in different amounts. But what do they represent? Let's start with the 4 elements. First, we have fire, which brings spirit and enthusiasm. It's the spark that pushes you forward and inspires action, and you'll mostly find it in Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Next, earth brings steadiness. It's practical, patient, and focused on building things that last, and it shows up through Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Then, air brings intellect. It helps you think, communicate, and explore ideas, and it moves through Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Finally, water brings emotion. It's intuitive, sensitive, and deeply aware of the unseen, and it flows through Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Everyone has all 4 elements in their chart, but the balance is different for each person. Someone with a lot of water and very little fire may feel emotions deeply but hesitate to take action. Someone heavy in air and light in earth may have brilliant ideas but struggle to ground them. Then come the modalities, which add movement. Cardinal signs begin things. They sense the starting point and are often the first to act. Fixed signs continue things. They see plans through and bring stability where others might waver. Mutable signs adapt. They adjust quickly, shift direction with ease, and help everyone stay flexible. A simple way to grasp all of this is to imagine a group planning a trip. The fire friend wants adventure and says yes before hearing any details. The earth friend checks the budget and books the hotel. The air friend shares 5 possible routes and a playlist. The water friend notices who's excited or anxious and keeps everyone connected. Then the modalities step in. The cardinal friend kicks things off. The fixed friend keeps the plan on track, and the mutable friend changes direction when something new pops up. So remember, you're not inconsistent, rigid, or emotional by accident. It's simply your energetic design. Remember how the planets represent the core parts of you that shape how you think, feel, and move through life? Let's take a closer look at them. Astrology works with 10 main planets. These include the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Each one signifies a different inner function. The Sun shows your identity and sense of purpose. The Moon reveals your emotional needs and how you respond to feelings. Mercury describes how your mind works, how you communicate, learn, and interpret the world. Venus speaks to your values and your love nature, what you're drawn to and what brings you joy. Mars drives your actions, courage, and the way you express anger or pursue what you want. Jupiter expands your world through optimism, curiosity, and a hunger for meaning. Then we have Saturn, which grounds you with structure, boundaries, responsibility, and sometimes hard-earned lessons. Uranus awakens your individuality and pushes you to break old patterns that no longer serve you. Neptune opens the door to imagination, creativity, spirituality, and the unseen. Finally, Pluto takes you inward, guiding you through transformation, power, and deep psychological change. If you're anything like most people new to astrology, you might be wondering if you have just one planet that defines you. The answer is no. You have all of them. Every person has all 10 planets in their chart, each sitting in a different sign and house. Some planets may be louder or more active depending on your chart, but none are missing. Now that you know what each planet represents, try noticing which ones feel more dominant in your life. For example, If you're always planning, learning, or analyzing, you might be expressing a strong Mercury pattern. If you're motivated by connection, beauty, or harmony, your Venus may feel more active. And if you're driven by big visions or a desire for growth, Jupiter could be the one you recognize most. The more you understand your inner patterns, the easier it becomes to choose a life that truly fits you. If planets describe what you feel, the 12 houses show where in your life those energies want to live. Think of them as the stages on which your inner world performs, each one linked to a different part of your real, everyday experience. Louise Edington says, "Astrology can help us heal our disconnection with the natural cycles of the universe and live in harmony with the cosmic cycles as they work within us." Understanding the concept of houses can help you move toward that connection. Let's take a look at each one in turn. The first house represents your birth, your rising sign, your instinctive way of entering the world, and how others see you at first glance. The second house represents your resources, including money, possessions, self-worth, and your relationship with your physical body. Then, the third house governs communication and learning. It covers your thinking style and how you absorb information from your environment. The fourth house brings you home, both emotionally and literally. It reflects your roots, your family, and the private space where you retreat and recharge. Moving outward, the fifth house is your creative spark. It holds joy, romance, play, and the parts of life where you express yourself freely. The sixth house rules daily routines, work habits, service, health, and the systems that keep your life functioning smoothly. The seventh house marks the doorway into partnerships. It reveals marriage, committed relationships, and the people who mirror the parts of yourself you may not always see. On the other hand, the eighth house goes deeper into intimacy, shared resources, transformation, sexuality, and psychological healing. The ninth house broadens your horizon with travel, higher learning, faith, and the search for meaning. The 10th house lifts you into public life, including career, reputation, and the mission you want to offer the world. Next, the 11th house turns toward community, friendships, social causes, and the future you imagine for yourself. Finally, the 12th house closes the circle in the realm of the unconscious, including dreams, fears, mysticism, and the quiet space where you dissolve old identities and reconnect with something larger. These houses matter because they show the movement of your life. You don't stay in one house forever. As you grow, you cycle through all 12, meeting different lessons at different times. Some areas feel active for years, while others stay quiet until the timing is right. But in all stages, remember, your experiences make more sense when you view them as chapters rather than isolated events. If you examine a birth chart, you'll notice lines drawn across the circle, connecting one planet to another. Some are straight, some are angled, and some create small geometric shapes. These lines are called aspects. Astrology uses several types of aspects, but the 5 major ones are conjunctions, oppositions, squares, trines, and sextiles. A conjunction happens when 2 planets sit close together. Their energies blend into one strong presence. This can feel powerful, but also confusing because it's hard to tell where one influence ends and the other begins. Then we have an opposition, which places planets across from each other, creating a pull from both sides. This tension asks you to find balance instead of choosing one side over the other. A square forms a 90-degree angle and creates friction. It's uncomfortable, but it's also motivating because squares push you to grow, stretch, and break old patterns. On the other hand, a trine creates smooth, natural flow. Trines reveal gifts and talents that feel so effortless, you might not even recognize them as gifts. Finally, a sextile offers potential. It shows an ability or opportunity that becomes stronger when you choose to engage with it. It opens when you participate. Every aspect creates movement in your inner world. Even the easy ones aren't purely effortless. A trine can make you so comfortable that you forget to develop your strengths, and the difficult ones aren't negative. A square can be the spark that pushes you to evolve. Aspects matter because they explain the why behind your inner conflicts and your natural teamwork. They show why some parts of you cooperate beautifully and why others feel like they're pulling in different directions. Think about someone who feels torn between ambition and emotional safety. They want a big career, but every time they make progress, something inside pulls them back. This might be a Moon-Saturn square. The Moon prioritizes emotional security. Saturn pushes for achievement. Neither voice is wrong. They just need to learn how to speak to each other. Or consider someone who's full of creative ideas but rarely finishes projects. They may have a Mercury-Neptune trine. Their imagination flows easily, but without a little tension to anchor that flow, the ideas don't fully land in the real world. All of these examples reinforce a core principle in astrology. The parts of you that seem to clash are usually the ones that teach you the most. Weeks after that night in the desert observatory, Mara returned to the same hilltop. This time, she went alone, carrying a journal and her well-worn birth chart. She spread out a blanket, breathed in the warm dusk air, and looked up at a sky she now recognized like an old friend. What started as Rowan's guided tour through cryptic symbols had become her own exploration. She'd spent hours researching her placements, reading about aspects, and watching the patterns of her life suddenly make sense through this new lens. Her chart was no longer an enigmatic wheel that needed translation. It had become a mirror she could finally read. She understood now why certain relationships had felt lopsided. Her Venus needed both freedom and loyalty, and she'd spent years choosing partners who offered one but not the other. She understood her lifelong urge to run wasn't avoidance, but rather her Sagittarius sun's craving for expansion and new horizons. And she saw that her deep emotional cycles were expressions of her Cancer moon sensitivity, asking to be honored instead of pushed away. The biggest shift was compassion. Instead of criticizing herself for being too much or not enough, she started making small adjustments. She honored her need for solitude before social events instead of forcing herself to be constantly available. She chose work that aligned with her values instead of chasing approval. She spoke honestly about her emotional needs rather than pretending she was fine. And slowly, steadily, her life felt less like a fight and more like a rhythm she could finally hear. As the sky darkened, she traced the Big Dipper overhead and felt a quiet sense of belonging. The wind picked up, warm and steady. Mara closed her journal and whispered into the night, "I'm learning to live in alignment, not expectation." Above her, the constellations shimmered, patient and familiar, as if reminding her that understanding yourself is one of the most enduring journeys there is. Ready to start practicing? Here are a few action steps to take. First, check in with your elemental balance. Look at your chart and count how many planets fall in fire, earth, air, and water signs. Notice which energies feel familiar and which feel quieter. You're not judging anything. You're just observing the rhythm you naturally lean toward. Next, watch one planet in action. Choose a planet that feels active for you, maybe your moon, Mars, or Venus. For a few days, jot down one moment when you felt that part of yourself showing up. Awareness alone can soften long-standing patterns. Third, explore one house that feels loud right now. Think about the part of your life currently taking center stage. It could be relationships, work, identity, or home. Look at the house connected to that theme and ask yourself, what is this part of my life teaching me today? Fourth, notice your inner conversations. The next time you feel torn or pulled in two directions, pause and ask, which parts of me are speaking right now? Naming the voices turns conflict into understanding. Finally, choose a small act of alignment. Before bed, choose one action for tomorrow that feels true to who you are, not who you're expected to be. Small choices in alignment create big changes over time. Most importantly, don't forget to treat yourself with honesty and kindness, one moment at a time. That's all for now. More intriguing summaries are just a click away.